Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hey everybody, welcome back to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, and welcome to a rather unusual episode because I might as well go and start off by addressing this, and that is regarding the fact that I decided to go and skip this week in terms of making an episode of the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And the reason why I decided to go and make that decision is because, well, there's really not a whole lot for me to talk about, at least this week, for this episode. I mean, these moments are very rare that they do happen, but this is one of those rare occurrences where we ended up with a massively dry week, where there's not enough news stories, or at least news stories that would be worth talking about in AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. So from there, I decided, instead of forcing out a week episode or trying to make an episode with a bunch of stories that normally would just not fit well in this podcast, I decided to go and skip this week entirely and just hope for the best for next week. That hopefully next week we will be getting more stories related to animation, regarding Disney, or regarding things that do definitely capture my interest, and that we will go and get back into the action. So again, I know these moments are very rare that they happen, but they do happen. And I mean, it's not often an easy decision, but again, I just don't want to go and force out a week episode filled with stories that might seem irrelevant to AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, especially in terms of the animation news, where there was almost none. However, you might be wondering though, why am I doing this? Why am I recording an episode anyways? Well, the thing is that throughout the week there is one exception that I know that I have to go and talk about, because not only is it debatably the biggest news that happened during the week, but it is also, I know for a fact that it will be one of the biggest news of the year. And even as I'm recording this, this is still going on today. And by the way, I just want to say, no, I'm not talking about the coronation because of two significant things. One, I couldn't care less about the freaking royal family and what the fridge is going on in there. And this story that I'll be talking about is something that I definitely care so much more. And two, this is a story about the people instead of some lazy family from a worthless monarchy who literally does nothing for their people in recent years, especially for Commonwealth countries like the one that I'm in right now. Trust me, I'm one of those Canadians that believe that the sooner we get out of the Commonwealth, the better. But anyways, I'm going a bit off topic. What I am talking about actually is regarding, of course, the writer's strike. Yes, this is actually something that has occurred right at the beginning of May. And this has been something that the writers, like, we have seen, like, a little bit of moments that were kind of looming to this moment, that we were aware that the Writers Guild of America was having some discussions with the major studios regarding a brand new deal. But it looks like the negotiations ultimately went nowhere. Whatever discussions that they had, they cannot agree on a deal. So basically all the writers in the entertainment industry, or at the very least the grand majority of them, ultimately decided that they are going to go on strike. And in terms of the initiation, and to go a bit more detail as to why they're going into it, I'm just going to go and read you here from my source here on Deadline, to which they put out a public announcement in regards to the strike, to which it states here, following the unanimous recommendation of the WGA negotiating committee, the board of directors of the Writers Guild of America West and the council of the Writers Guild of America East, acting upon the authority granted to them by their membership, have voted unanimously to call a strike effective at 12:01 a.m. Tuesday, May 2nd. The decision was made following 6 weeks of negotiations with Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Disney, Discovery Warner, NBC Universal, Paramount, and Sony under the umbrella of the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. The WGA negotiating committee began its process intent on making a fair deal, but the studio's responses have been wholly insufficient given the existential crisis writers are facing. The company's behavior has created a gig economy inside a union workforce, and their immovable stance in this negotiation has betrayed a commitment to further devaluing the profession of writing. From their refusal to guarantee any level of weekly employment in episodic television, to the creation of a day rate in comedy variety, to their stonewalling of free work for screenwriters and on AI for all writers, they have closed the door on their labor force and opened the door to writing as an entirely freelance profession. No such deal could ever be contemplated by this membership. Picketing will begin tomorrow afternoon. And here is where we are today, where, yes, as I am recording this, they are still on strike. But throughout all this, you might have gotten a little bit of a taste of what they do want. And some people are thinking that, oh, well, you know, it is a strike. And usually with these things, people just want to have better pay for what they do. And because their bosses say no, well, then that's why they are going on strike. Well, in reality, it's actually a lot more that goes into it. And there are 3 specific reasons as to why, or at least what I think is 3 specific reasons as to why they are on strike and what is it that the writers want from Hollywood. And there's actually this one article that I highly recommend that you go and check out. It's this one from Variety called Writer Strike FAQ, Everything You Need to Know About the Possible Shutdown, or as we know it today as the shutdown, since yeah, it is happening. Well, okay, not like a total shutdown, but at least like the strike itself. And this is an article written by Gene Madhouse. I think that's how you say their name correctly. I could totally be wrong. But anyways, in this article, they wrote down everything that you need to know about this strike and what are some of the major consequences that will occur to both the writers, to Hollywood, to the companies, and to people like you as well. And to go and answer about what is it that writers want, I'll go and read you this excerpt over here. As it states, first off, money. Writers are seeking a sea change in their compensation, starting with a significant hike in guild weekly minimums. They also want to rewrite the formula for streaming residuals to pay writers more for hit shows and to pay more with the growth in international subscribers. They want to expand span protection, a contractual provision that limits the time period that studios can retain writers for their episodic fee to 2.4 weeks, so that it covers writers making $400,000 and above, which would increase their overscale pay substantially. The Guild has estimated that the total cost of its proposal is $600 million. They also want changes to working conditions. They want a minimum staffing level for TV writers' rooms. They want writers to work for a guaranteed minimum number of weeks per show. They want provisions that would require the writers to be involved in production and post-production of shows so that writers get producing experience. They want a provision that would protect writers' compensation and credits from encroachment by AI, though they are not seeking to forbid the use of AI in screenwriting. If the writers go on strike, it would likely not be for any one or two of these issues, but rather for all of the above. So from all of here, at least for me, I have gathered that there are 3 significant things as to what is it specifically that writers want. It's payment, job security, and how Hollywood will handle AI. And trust me, that last one, we're really going to go dive deep into that. But first of all, there is the factor of money. Now, of course, that's probably the most common reason as to why people would go on a strike. But there is kind of a fair reason when you do look upon why is it that they are on strike specifically. And that's kind of the reason why we do see these strikes occur again and again and again. Not like every year, but there is a bit of a pattern where like once every several years it would occur. And the last time that we had a writer strike was actually all the way back in 2007. And that was a major one for around 100 days. These excuse me. But these writers went on strike and they were committed to get what they want. And keep in mind, like 100 days, that's like a long time. That's like give or take, like a little over 3 months that they decided not to work, to go on strike, and to demand Hollywood for better compensation for them, which they did ultimately get. But the reason why nowadays that they are on strike and why is it that these things would keep on happening is because, well, it often occurs whenever we are in a new age of entertainment. And you got to think back that in 2007, it was a massively different time for entertainment than it is today. Like the big differences between 2007 and now is that we are in the age of streaming. Now streaming is like the go-to place in order to provide entertainment, whether it be for movies or TV shows. Like the business is massively booming, and the business for streaming is really helping out the entertainment industry in general, where even a lot of executives are just boasting about how business is growing stronger than ever thanks to streaming. However, despite the fact that we are seeing revenue just massively going up for those companies because of streaming, it doesn't trickle down to the people creating the content in the first place. And that is especially the case for writers. Because the thing is, with these top executives, they're very slow when it comes to money. Because you have to keep on reminding them, and you have to keep poking at them to remind them, hey, we need some of that cash as well. You know, these executives, they're just there like, hey, look at this. I got money. I has more money now. Excuse me, sir. Can we have some of that money, actually? Huh? But this is my money. I make money. Well, yeah, but according to the union, though, we need to have some of that compensation, you know, to have our fair share because we are the ones that have made the content for streaming, you know. Huh? Oh, okay. Well, I guess okay. Damn unions. You know, that's basically the whole thing. I guess you could say that is kind of the quick summary of not only how unions work, but also how Hollywood is when it comes to money and when it comes to paying their workers, especially when it comes to paying their writers, that like writers absolutely need a union to go and remind Hollywood that they need better compensation, that they need better payment. Is to go and prove that if things really are going well in the entertainment industry and that things are going very well when it comes to streaming, where now more than ever they are producing content again and again and again, and if that means high demand for more content and consequentially for more writers, then writers should get paid more for the work that they would go and normally do. So that's why money is a significant factor, because we can't let these executives be like dragons and just keep hoarding that money all to themselves. You got to go and send them massive reminders to go and actually pay their workers, to pay the people who would go and work for them in order to provide the content, in order to make more money for the company. So that's why money is a significant thing here. But then again, it is definitely more than just money, because then there is also the factor of job security. And this doesn't just reflect upon writing, but this really is something that really reflects upon the entertainment industry in general, where, yeah, usually it can be a massive gig economy where, regardless of who it may be, not just writers, but you can also ask like animators, directors, actors, like it's often just jumping from one job to the next. And more often than not, instead of actually doing the thing that your job describes you to do, you would go and have to jump around different jobs to see like, okay, I want to have this job, all right, so let's try to go and get this job. That's what a gig economy is. It's basically trying to find jobs and hope that you can go and land it. And trust me, as an actor myself, it's something that's really not easy to get into. And I can imagine the difficulties for writers to try to jump into this industry and hoping that they can go and land a job. But because there is no job security, that's why it just becomes harder and harder. Yes, there are more content out there so that the quantity of content that opens up new opportunities and for new jobs, like, yeah, it's bigger than ever. But also at the same time, it doesn't guarantee security. Because especially in this economy where, like, even nowadays we are still having a lot of difficulties trying to fight against inflation and stuff like that, we want to have a job that can be secure, that we could just go to work and we know that we will have the compensation needed in order to live, like to go and pay the bills, pay for groceries, and all that kind of stuff. And with gig economies, especially for writers, if they're just going to be there to go and write for like only one episode of a show, well, then that's going to be very difficult for them. Like, there are some jobs that, once you go and land something, like, you could stay there for a good while. You could stay there for months, or you could stay there for years. Like, there are some very successful shows in which if you're a very prominent writer, well, then of course they're going to go and keep you. Or if you're working on a major motion picture, like if you're working on a big name movie, like something from Marvel, then it's a guarantee they will they'll let you stay there so that you can go and help do the proper revisions on the script so that it would fit the scene better and it would fit the movie better. So that's why nowadays, unfortunately, though, it becomes harder and harder to have that job security. So that's also another thing that they are heavily demanding. And that is especially the case when it comes to television, because it's becoming less and less secure, where now they're just hiring people by the episode. And that can become a little bit of a problem. And there are some people that they want to ensure that if they get a job in one specific show, then they want to make sure that they'll at least stay there for about a season or two, or at least for a handful of episodes, to make sure that whatever job that they're working on, that they can stay there and that they know that it can pay well, so that, they can continue their careers as writers. So that is a significant thing, of course, why they want to go and make sure that they can have that security, and whatever show would hire them, well, then they can be rest assured that they will go and stick around. But then there is the third thing, and this is the biggest one that people are currently talking about, and this is regarding AI. And oh boy, what a scary subject this is. And debatably, this is the one that is really making people keeping their eye out on this entire strike. This is the big reason why is it that it's so newsworthy, and why there are so many people, even those beyond the entertainment industry, are keeping an eye on what is going on with this strike. In a way, many people would go and view this strike as writers versus AI. Because, well, we do live in an age where technology is growing massively rapidly, and AI is starting to become the hot new tech that people are experimenting and they're trying out. And we have been seeing more different types of AI that is being used, rather it be ChatGPT, or they would use voice recognition AI, that would be used like all around social media, that they would write down things and then you would have some random robotic voice say it for you, which is especially the case and very common to find on TikTok. But the big point of this strike, or one of the biggest things that people are paying attention to in terms of the strike, is what's going to be happening with AI, because the fear is real when it comes to writers. Like that old fear about, oh, one day machines are going to replace us and they will take our jobs and stuff like that. That's what writers are absolutely fearing for the most. Like, maybe they're not shunning AI entirely, but they are worried if Hollywood executives are going to one day decide that in order to go and save money for their productions, they're just going to go and hire AI to go and write their scripts for TV shows and movies instead of actual writers. In fact, there actually was a recent news that did pop out that Hollywood and a lot of executives there, they are considering the idea that maybe they're going to experiment more with AI. And one day, when the strike is going to be over, they're going to bring those writers back so that they can go and make proper revisions onto those AI scripts. And that's why a lot of people, and I know that nowadays AI is a very divisible subject. Like, there are those that really do like it, and there are those that absolutely hate it with a passion. I admittedly, in my opinion, am more towards people who oppose AI, because this is a very frightening subject, not just for writers, but just for everyone in general. Like, a lot of people are discussing about what's going to be happening with AI, and is it going to be advanced enough to replace people, especially in the entertainment industry. Like, this isn't just the case for writers, but this is also the case for directors, for cinematographers, for animators, and even for actors as well, both on camera and especially for voice. Like, from time to time, I would go and have discussions with Montreal voice actors regarding what to do to help each other out with our careers. And nowadays, more and more, the subject about AI is being brought up, and a lot of veterans are telling us to go and prepare ourselves about what to do in the situation if we are hired for a job in which we will bring our voice onto an AI system. Like, what are we going to do? And also, what kind of compensation should we have if we do accept those kinds of jobs? So we really are at that point where AI is growing substantially in terms of its popularity, and people are already discussing about ways to go and navigate around AI so that we could still have our jobs and, you know, work with AI instead of against AI. So we very much are at that point. And that's especially the case with writers, where, again, they didn't say that they want to go and ban it entirely, but to go back into the article on Variety, they said that they want a provision that would protect writers' compensation and credit from encroachment by AI, though they are not seeking to forbid the use of AI in screenwriting. So they're not fully opposed, you know, they're not fully against using AI in general in screenwriting, but they want to make sure that they could still have a career, that they could still have the proper form of compensation. And that's one thing many people are worried about, especially if this would really screw over writers, is that what Hollywood executives would do is that they would go and I've already explained a little bit of this scenario, but executives would go and use AI in order to go and write a full script, and then the writers would come in and make the proper revisions to make the scripts actually sound more human, that it actually sounds like it would make more sense. And what people are very much worried about is that this would be a cheat code for executives, that they wouldn't have to go and pay writers that much, because they're only going to be hired to work on parts of a script instead of being hired to go and fully write a script. So that's honestly the big thing, and that's the major revision and like the big emergency that they want to go and address, to make sure that if they are going to be if they are going to be working on a script, rather it be if it's already written by someone else or if it's written by an AI, they want to make sure that the compensation that they get is actually worth it's actually worth it, and that executives are not actually screwing them over. That's pretty much the big subject. And I know that, again, many people are very much divided in terms of the subject. Some people love it and some people absolutely hate it. But I don't know, like it ultimately depends on what kind of agreement that they can go and make. But the reality is, at least for now, it seems like AI is the new tech that everybody wants to go and use. And the best that we can do is to ensure that our jobs are secure with AI. Many people in the industry, including voice actors, animators, directors, writers, and many, many more, they have to find ways to ensure that whatever they are compensated for their work that does involve AI, that it is worth it, that they make sure that whatever the AI does, well, then the person whose job is supposed to do what the AI is doing, that they still get a decent amount compensation. So that's the big discussion in terms of AI, and again, why people are so like focused onto this strike, or like the biggest reason, because this could determine the fate of AI as well. Because if Hollywood decides that they're really going to go all in on AI, well, then this could increase much more the popularity of AI, and well, that's a whole other subject right there that I don't think many people really want to go and discuss, or if they are ready to go and have that kind of discussion. However, even if all of this is happening, I'm sure there are some viewers out there that might be wondering, though, how is this going to affect you specifically, the viewer, the consumer, the audience? How is this strike going to go and affect you personally? Because surely there must be something more to it, that that in terms of the consequences, this isn't affecting just Hollywood and the writers and stuff. Well, that is true. And there is a way that it does affect the consumer and the viewer, just like yourself. And I just want to go and state right now, the consequences are not like massive. Like this isn't something that's going to change your life forever, but this strike is undeniably going to leave a major impact onto the industry. And a great example as to how it could do so is by looking into the last writer's strike in 2007, where back then, considering that, well, there was no writers out there that is able to go and work on any major production, the biggest noteworthy consequence to the 2007 writer's strike was that not long afterwards, we saw the massive rise of reality TV shows, or specifically what Hollywood did and what the entertainment industry did is that they decided to go and work around the strike and start producing content that are less dependent on having writers. So that's why they would go and use unscripted reality shows, and they would go and try to produce more content like that, or they would go and take like old scripts that didn't really work out before, but now they're going to try them out, and well, it would turn out to be a massive disaster. That's why we had a bit of that awkward period in the late 2000s where many movies and shows, well, they're not good. That was the biggest consequence. There was no writers out there that could go and help improve the scripts that they were working with. So that's why a lot of them turned out to be a massive disaster. And I mean, think about like some of the worst movies that were released back in like 2008 or 2009. And there is a very good chance that they were badly affected because of the consequence from the writer's strike. So what I'm thinking is that for this year, for what we are seeing right now in 2023 with this writer strike, we could be seeing a little bit something similar, where Hollywood may have no choice but to find a way to work around the strike, that they have to go and find a way to go and produce more content in which they are less dependent on having writers to go and work on them. And going back into the subject of AI, that is another big reason why people are keeping an eye on, because this is going to be the major thing that will really encourage Hollywood executives to go and actually try out AI to see if they are sufficient enough to actually go and work on actual scripts, if they can actually replace writers with AI, considering that, well, they don't have any writers on hand, so they'll rely on the computer to go and produce it for them. which, if I may go and put in my opinion onto this, I think this could be something that executives are really going to regret, because yes, it is true that AI technology has very much advanced over the years, and AI is capable of doing some incredible things nowadays. Like, it is kind of scary with how fast the technology of it is rapidly growing. But I don't think we are at the point where they can do those things well. Rather it be in terms of writing full scripts for episodes or for shows, or for producing actual art, or for creating actual pieces of animation. Yeah, they are not there yet. And more often than not, or the grand majority of the time, they usually come out as a massive mess. I mean, yeah, sure, AI is capable of doing some small pieces of work. Like, they could do small things at a time, but I don't think they really are at the point where they can go and handle massive jobs, like full on replacing writers to go and work on scripts for movies and TV shows. I think, again, we're going to see that same kind of incident, that if executives really are going to be pressing forward with using AI, then we will see the same thing like we did like back in 2008, 2009, and a bit of 2010, where we're just going to see we're going to see like a massive dip in quality, and that suddenly the content that they would go and produce would just turn out to be massive trash. And if that is the case, well, then Hollywood executives are going to go and pin the blame on its failures onto AI, and that's going to cause the downfall of AI. Because if executives cannot make money out of AI, well, then the technology is going to be dead, because that is the main purpose why these people would go and actually create this technology. It's not to go and advance our lives, it's not going to go and improve our quality of living. It's for the purpose of making money. And if it fails to do that, well, then there is no purpose to the technology whatsoever. Well, at least that is a possibility that it could happen. But then again, there is also the chance that they're going to go and have a repeat of the 2007 strike, and maybe we will see more unscripted programming that's suddenly going to go and show up on streaming services, that we're suddenly going to see more reality shows or documentaries being produced onto Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon, Apple TV Plus, and so much more. There is that possibility that it could happen. But then again, one thing that we are already seeing in terms of the consequences is in terms of what is happening with the delays, because there have already been a whole bunch of content that's already been delayed. And there is one article that I did find. This one is from Vanity Fair, in which they did put out a list of shows that are already being delayed. Like, they have shut down their productions because of this writer strike. And I mean, these shows are not canceled, but they are put on hold until the writers can go and come back. And on this Vanity Fair article, they mentioned that shows such as Hacks, Saturday Night Live, all late night TV shows such as Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, Seth Meyers, The Daily Show, like, they're no longer on. They need writers, but there are no writers, so they can't do anything. There's also Abbott Elementary, Yellow Jackets, American Horror Story, Unstable, Big Mouth, Cobra Kai, Night Court, Power Book 3, Raising Cannon, and The Talk. And I'll even admit that this article here doesn't necessarily reflect upon every single thing that's been put on hold, because even after this article, there have been more content that have been announced that they're also temporarily shut down. Like, two very prominent ones include the final season of Stranger Things, and even Marvel's Blade. That ended up getting delayed. And that one, I would say, like the latter, that is a massive deal, because that is an MCU movie. Like, usually Marvel would go and be prepared to have like this massive schedule, be planned years ahead for these things. And if they would go and move one piece, well, then they would have to go and move the rest of the piece. So that also has a massive consequence onto the content that they would go and produce. So that is the biggest consequence that we are going to see. And I'll say now, this is not something that's going to affect us immediately, because this is going to affect things that are currently in production, or especially if they are in pre-production. Because I'll say right now that the stuff that are in post-production, they're perfectly fine. So it may not affect the content for this year. Like whatever shows and movies from 2023, those are going to be fine. And even some content from 2024, I would say they're okay. But then moving forward, the stuff that will be scheduled for 2024 and maybe even for 2025, those are the ones that are going to be in trouble. Those are the ones that are being screwed over because of all these different delays or these temporary shutdowns, or especially if the companies decide that they're going to go and continue production onto this, then suddenly we will go and see a massive dip in its quality. Like one example, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but there is also House of Dragons, which is the Game of Thrones spinoff. And I did hear that apparently they are going to go and continue the production of that despite the writer's strike that is going on. And if that is the case, oh boy, I think we will see a little bit of a repeat to what happened to the finale of Game of Thrones. Now that is going to be happening towards House of Dragons. So yeah, the point that I'm making is that once we go and enter into 2024 and beyond, that's when we're really going to go and see the consequence of everything that is happening with the writer's strike. That without writers, Hollywood is really in a vulnerable spot. And the big question is, at this point, I'm sure some people might wonder, when is this going to end? How long is this strike going to last? Is it just going to be a little over a week? Is it going to be a month? Is it going to be the rest of the year? Well, the answer is we don't know. The thing is, writers know very well about the power that they do have, and they know about the key role that they have in the entertainment industry and how dependent projects are in terms of having writers. Like, they know that they are one of the most important people for any project, whether it be a TV show, a movie, a YouTube video, or whatever. Like, writers are a massive key player, and they will keep on going on with this strike until they get what they want. So I think that's ultimately the best answer that I can provide. It's really, they're going to keep striking until they win, until Hollywood is left in a really bad spot where they cannot take it anymore. They cannot move forward with making making quality content. So they'll have no choice but to accept the WGA's offer. And that's why, honestly, I feel like this could go on for quite a while. Like, in my opinion, it's going to be a very unpredictable thing. I mean, maybe there is a chance that by the time you're watching this, the writer's strike is over. But then again, there's also that chance that it could happen it can happen for a few more days, or it could happen for a few more weeks, or like the 2007 strike, it could happen for several months, or hell, maybe this strike is going to last throughout the entire summer. There is that chance. Or crazier yet, we could see this strike happen for the rest of the year, that this is going to be the rest of 2023. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be the case, but there is that possibility, because again, writers know about the power that they do possess. They know about their importance in the industry, and they want to remind Hollywood about that importance, because more often than not, they very much are sought after by executives. So when executives get that reminder that they are important and that they should get the treatment that they ask for, then that's going to be the day when the strike is over. And not to mention that this strike, by the way, it will have a massive consequence towards other unions as well. Like, I'm sure that this is something that the Animation Guild, the Directors Guild, the Producers Guild, SAG-AFTRA, and many other entertainment unions, they're also keeping an eye on, and that they want to make sure that they also make the proper revisions to ensure that they can also have that job security, to make sure that whatever they're asking for, that they get proper treatment and they get the proper respect that they deserve in terms of the roles that they do play in the entertainment industry. And that is especially the case when it comes to AI. Like, right now, unions, I'm sure right now they are currently talking amongst each other, especially with what is happening with this strike, to know about what they should do to protect themselves so that AI doesn't ultimately replace their jobs. So that honestly is the big thing, and why I do feel like this is one of the biggest news stories in terms of entertainment this year, because whatever's going to be happening with this strike and whatever's going to come out of it, that's going to have a prominent consequence and a prominent ripple effect for the next few years. So we are going to see some prominent consequence. And I know that technically when it comes to the internet, people can have a bit of a memory of a goldfish, but you got to keep this in mind. If this does happen, that suddenly when we're in 2024 or 2025, and we do see that this entire, when we do see movies and TV shows, suddenly they're not as good as what they used to be, and we see this massive quality dip, try to remember that part of the reason, not entirely the reason, but part of the reason is because of the consequence of the writer's strike. I'm not saying to go and blame writers. What I am saying is that because of this writer's strike, because writers need to go and remind Hollywood about their importance in the industry, that's why we are seeing, that's why we would see these shows suddenly their quality suck, is because that's what happens when Hollywood doesn't treat their writers properly. So that's pretty much my entire thoughts on this. Oh, and of course, one more thing that I do want to state is regarding my stance on this entire position. Well, as you can probably guess, I am someone who is very much pro-union, and I definitely do stand with the WGA. I definitely stand by their side. I definitely do know about their importance in the industry, and I definitely do know how writers play a very key role in these movies and TV shows, and in the content that they do produce. So yes, I do feel like they do deserve the proper treatment, and that they do deserve the security so that their jobs do not get replaced, rather it be through small gig economy systems or through AI. They definitely deserve to have proper treatment, and they definitely do deserve to have great respect, as much as writers and directors do. Some people could even say that writers are a bit of the underdogs of the industry because of how much that they can often be sought after. And when you would go and see a massive motion picture or a prominent TV show, it's very rare that you would see people go and credit the work that has been put onto the writing, or the credit that's been given to the writers. That's often been an afterthought, sadly. So yeah, I definitely do stand in solidarity with the WGA, and I definitely do wish them all the best, and that hopefully they will end up with that win. All right, so with that said, I know if you're listening to this, well, then this wouldn't really make much of a difference. But if you are watching this, I know it seems a little bit weird watching this episode while the chat wall over here is pretty empty. But that doesn't mean that you cannot go and express your thoughts on this matter. And well, that's why there is the comment section. Even though, I try to avoid that thing like the plague, I know many of you do like to use that comment section to go and express your thoughts on whatever. So at that point, treat that as your chat wall for this week, and let me know what you think about this entire situation with the writer's strike. Let me know about your thoughts on the matter. And I don't know if this would actually happen, but especially if you are a writer in the industry and you are on strike, I would love to know your thoughts on the entire scenario. And if there's anything that I did not talk about throughout this entire episode, then please let me know what you think. Don't hesitate to go and add on to that. So with that said and done, well, I guess that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. I know it is a little bit weird that I'm just covering one story that I have pre-recorded, but again, I'm just working with what I can and just covering on a major topic that, you know, it needs to be discussed. You know, this is like very significant news and that it needs to be brought up. And I guess in a way, hopefully this will go and make things up for the lack of a proper episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. But don't worry, hopefully by next week, things will get back to normal. We will get more content or more materials that we can actually work with. And hopefully things can resume back as normal starting next week. So with that said, I would like to say, if you would like to have more AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast and you want to follow me, then don't forget to go and subscribe to my Twitch channel at AniMat Live or subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel. But at the same time, if you are listening to whatever podcast service with AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, then don't forget to follow me there, rather it be on iTunes, Amazon, Spotify, Google Play, or whatever. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dude.